thanks so much for joining us. You're at the Sharjah International Book Festival. How important are events like this for you personally?
Yeah, I think they're important for me, but also for everyone for the same set of reasons. And I think I'm a big fan of doing things in person. I've realised that we have the technology now to do a lot of things online and to learn online, but there's a reason why my podcast, The Diary of a CEO, has always been in person, even through COVID. It's because I think there's something more than information that's gained when you're at events like this or in person in the context of a podcast and consuming, because there's something to be gained from both the networking side of it, but also I think the stories are told better in person, and that's also why we at the Diary of a CEO have never done our show on Zoom or anything like that. And also, it's just with the way that the world is going, I really, really think there's an increased demand for people to be together in person, doing things in real life.
In terms of your book, obviously you'll talk a bit about that, but also you've also started a publishing company as well.
Yes.
Just tell us a bit about Flight and why that's hugely important to you.
Yeah, so it's interesting because it's quite surprising that someone like me who's built their business and career on social media, where everything is quick and ephemeral and short, would care about the book publishing industry. But when you think about a bunch of first principles around books, it makes perfect sense. So poles rise at the same time. And what I mean by that is when digital music became hot, vinyl records came back in a world of AI and automation and digitalization, there's an increased demand for things that get you offline into the real world and make you immersed in a similar way. And this is why we're seeing books now in all their forms more popular, selling more than ever, and still having the appeal that they've always had, because they offer a life raft away from a digitalized world. And if you look, there's certain, I was watching a video the other day of a coffee shop in Amsterdam where you walk in, no phones, no Wi-Fi, no nothing, and you sit there and read a book and you knit and you do things like that, and they're selling out. It's absolutely rammed, and it speaks to the demand that exists instinctively but innately in all of us to disconnect.
And do you ever get that kind of feeling? Because obviously your business is heavily kind of digitally focused. Do you ever get that feeling where you just want to step back and have something a bit more tangible, like a book, or put a record on?
Of course. And I think, what's equally wonderful is if you can do it with somebody else, which again is one of the sort of real innate things that we all have. That's no amount of technological advancement is going to change our innate Maslowian wiring. So of course, yeah, and I actually think that physical book clubs are a wonderful place to be investing. I was actually on the way over here, I was speaking to Amy Golding, who's the managing director of Flight, and I was saying to her this thesis that I have about AI and oxytocin. And again, it goes back to what I was saying a second ago, which is poles rise at the same time. In a world where there's going to be an increase in artificial intelligence and digitalization and automation, there's going to be a huge demand for the opposite. And when I say oxytocin, it's the hormone associated with bonding. There's going to be a huge demand for bonding. So investing in both physical book clubs, but also ChatGPT, it probably makes a lot of sense in the world we're living in.
You obviously talk about a lot about your businesses, about the work and time you had to put in to get to where you are today. My question is, do you ever take a step back and look at what you've achieved? One of Britain's youngest millionaires, you own several businesses, you've worked very, very hard from a dropout to where you are now. Do you ever take a step back and go, actually, I've achieved quite a lot, and give myself a bit of a pat on the back and give yourself enough credit?
It's really interesting because I've never said this before, but I've also no one's really asked me this question, but all of those things that you just said as accomplishments were not my accomplishments. They aren't my goals. So then those aren't the things that I would pat myself on the back for. So like what I'm saying is, a lot of the external things that people might give you credit for are of no value to you. So why would I give myself credit for those things? Like the things that I'm most proud of is I've been in a relationship for 6 years and I haven't fucked it up. Sorry for swearing, but that's like the thing that I'm most proud of, because that was like a really important goal for me. It wasn't an important goal to me to have tons of businesses and be one of the youngest millionaires in the UK. That was not a goal. It's not something that I aspire to. I'm really proud of the impact that the podcast is having, That's like a really wonderful thing. But do I reflect and pause? Sometimes you have the odd moment where you'll see an old photo and it'll teleport you back into that moment. So you'll remember that day where you shoplifted pizzas to feed yourself, and you'll think, gosh, I'm so far away from that guy, and I remember how that guy felt, and I remember what his world was like, and I'm so grateful. That's the word. I'm so grateful that this is the life I have.
Yeah, I remember. I think probably one of your first episodes, especially your first season of Dragon's Den. You were single when you were filming that, and you were talking about. I think there was an app that came up, maybe a dating app or something, and I think you were quite interested in it. On the personal side, a little bit, how much has that helped you develop to the person you are today in comparison to 6 years ago?
Yeah, so funnily enough, when I filmed that episode of Dragon's Den, me and my partner at the time, she'd gone to Bali. We had a couple of issues in our relationship. Not with us getting along, it was like a medical situation, and we'd taken a break and she'd gone to Bali. So when I filmed that first season of Dragon's Den, I actually wasn't in a relationship, and I said it on air. And I think there was a pitch where I said I'm a single 32-year-old guy or something like this. By the time that aired, we were back together. So it got me in a lot of trouble. I think she thought I was advertising on TV. But how critical has my relationship been to me? It's so important. It's like so important, because for focus, for having a place that is not work. When you come home, you have a different set of responsibilities, and it's a different world, which is wonderful. And if it wasn't for her, I probably would work 7 days a week, and I would work 365 days a year. I would just work every hour of every day. But because of her, she acts as this counterbalance, which means sometimes on the weekend, many weekends, we go away to the countryside and walk around a lake. And although I would never choose to do it, it turns out it's wonderfully important.
I want to get your view on the Middle East, if you don't mind, Steven, and I guess business out here and the landscape across particularly the UAE. Do you spend much time here? What do you notice about kind of business here and its growth?
I do spend a lot of time here, especially in this season of the year. Like over the next couple of months, I'll be here quite often, all around the region. And the thing that I notice about the region is that it's incredibly entrepreneurial. And I think there's something to be said for the way that the government's structured and the royal families are structured in the region, because that means that there's less bureaucracy, faster decision making. I think the most important thing for the Middle East is to attract talent and to create an environment where the most talented founders that are going to build the next world-changing companies, want to come and live and build here. Because the Middle East is set up has created such a business-friendly environment, but the next critical step is getting the talent to come here and to build and to live here. It's business-friendly in the sense that less bureaucracy, decisions happen faster, tax-friendly in many areas of the Middle East, but it's really the critical thing is why do great entrepreneurs still choose San Francisco? Why do they still choose to go and build their company in London? And I think that's the critical thing.
But there is the whole question of millionaires leaving the UK. I mean, right now it's seeing the biggest kind of exodus of millionaires than it's ever seen before. I think it's only second to China in the world. Why on earth is that happening? Why do people not want to invest in the UK and get out of there?
If you look at where the next big revolution in technology and economies is happening, artificial intelligence, it's pretty much all happening in two regions of the world, which is America and China. And it's like disproportionately happening there. And if I was running a country now, my central priority would be to get entrepreneurs that are building artificial intelligence to come and build it here. Because the proceeds of these large language models and the technology that underpins AI are going to accrue to the country. And so I think we've never seen intelligence disrupted before. And I don't think we quite understand how much of our lives are built on intelligence. Whether we're talking about lawyers, whether we're talking about driving, which is the biggest employer on planet Earth, whether we're talking about, most high intellect jobs are based on podcasting, media, interviewing right now. I can play you right now a 1-hour podcast, which you won't be able to tell me isn't me. It sounds indistinguishable from me, that I didn't record, I didn't write, and has the same retention as episodes of The Diary of a CEO. All of this is happening, and the benefits of it will accrue to the countries that invest heavily in AI. So I'm sure there are a lot of entrepreneurs leaving the UK. That's true. We've seen this huge millionaire exodus over the last, especially since sort of post-COVID and things that have gone on with the war. But the really important companies that are being built right now are still being built in America.
And many are moving here to the UAE. What makes the UAE so special for those people to up sticks and move out here?
I mean, it's everything. It's the lifestyle. It's the crime. It's the business-friendly environment. It's the tax. It's the weather. It's all of these things. Yeah, and I've got loads of friends that have left the UK and come here.
Would you ever think about it?
Yes. Yeah. I speak to Kalfan, who's the head of innovation, right? The head of the Dubai Innovation Organization, about this and about my fund and the things we could do here. So I reckon there's a probability that someday I could be here. At the moment, because of what I do, it's quite hard to leave either America or England. And if being more specific here, obviously I'm on a TV show in the UK, which takes about 2 months a year. I run a podcast, and there's really 3 key cities at the moment if you want to run a podcast: LA, New York, and London. This is where all the major talent comes, the Harvard experts come, the Barack Obamas of the world will frequent. So that's really where you need to be if you're in my industry. And then I have a software company in San Francisco, and there's just huge talent density there. So if you want extremely great developers and you want to build a company which is probably in person, you probably need to be in.
I feel like the UAE's got a little space for you somewhere, though. I think it has.
I actually think that I could end up living permanently in the UAE within the next 5 years. And I've actually had a conversation with my partner. We actually came out here and started viewing houses in Dubai, and we spent some time in Sharjah as well. Just in case a few things happen in my life, and if a few things play out in certain ways, which I probably shouldn't talk about because people start panicking, then it could well be the case that this would be the place that I'd come.
Last couple of questions, if I may. I get from you that on the surface, you're a very strong character, very, very quite tough, and you maybe don't kind of show as many emotions as maybe a businessman probably doesn't do that. But there was an article written by the New Statesman that specifically had the headline "Stephen Bartlett's Empire of Bluff." Yeah. I kind of just want to know personally, does stuff like that does it impact you? Does it affect you? Does it kind of get under your skin?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even see it, so I wouldn't know that it existed. So I mean, obviously I have a podcast, so I read the comments that we get on the episode, so I see that kind of stuff. But beyond that, it just wouldn't get to me. My friends wouldn't send me something like that. I wouldn't search it. I don't Google myself. So I think much of my focus is to try and just stay really centrally focused on what matters to me, and that's my girlfriend. I've got to keep her happy. My businesses, I've got to keep them happy. My portfolio, I've got to keep them happy. And then myself, my health, I've got to keep that in check. And also my friends. Probably spend 90% of my time speaking to 6 of my best friends. That's my world. Mm-hmm. And everything out here is really none of my business.
Has that kind of focus helped you get to where you are today, do you think, and ignoring that noise from the outside?
You probably get 1 billion views, 1 billion impressions on LinkedIn a year, and then the Diary of a CEO has just hit 1 billion downloads, /views across YouTube and Spotify and Apple. So you can imagine how many reviews I have on there, in the hundreds of thousands, how many comments you have, maybe millions of comments. I don't think I'd get much done if I spent even 10 minutes a day trying to read things. I don't think I'd get anything done, so I consider it to be none of my business. Yeah.
Finally, the Advertising Standards Agency in the UK had issue with your Huel and Zoe adverts because of your financial kind of connections with them. What is your response to them removing that? Do you understand the reason behind it, and was it a mistake?
Do you know the context of this?
Yeah.
What was the context?
Well, your commercial affiliations with them, and then of course the adverts that went on air. You can tell me.
Yeah. So this is the point. So I didn't post anything or say anything.
Okay.
So Huel posted an advert on their channel. and then Zoe posted something on their channel. So, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was nothing I said or posted.
Yeah.
Nothing on my channels. It was something that Cure posted on their channel and Zoe posted on their channel. Obviously, because I'm associated with those companies, then I'm linked to it. But so I can't tell you I would have done anything differently because I didn't do anything.
Nope,
So,
and that's fine. And I'm glad that you could clarify that. Finally, your UAE trip. Any plans whilst you're here? Any thing you're going to do a little bit different other than the book festival?
Things to do differently. See my friends. I've got lots of friends here. Some of my friends that moved out here, so I'm seeing them. Went to the gym with one earlier, and then that's it really. I'm using the week. I've really enjoyed this weekend because it's given me some time on the ground away from everything to work. So I've been speaking to a lot of my executives in the UK about different things we're doing in the company. But that's really it. Go to the gym, work, see my friends. It's pretty much my entire life.